What if Toji didn't die in his fight with Gojo in the hidden inventory arc? What would he do differently? In the original story, Toji Fushiguro dies during the hidden inventory arc after his fight with Gojo. He mortally wounds Gojo but doesn't finish the job. Gojo survives by mastering the reverse curse technique, and Toji makes the mistake of staying. Gojo then combines red and blue to create hollow purple, which obliterates the left side of Toji's body and kills him. With his final breath, Toji reveals that he sold his son, Megumi, to the Zenin clan, leading Gojo to later find and mentor Megumi. Toji dies standing, refusing to fall even in death. However, in this timeline, Gojo is intrigued by the idea of a non-sorcerer being able to defeat him and almost kill him. When he approaches Toji again, he doesn't attack with the intent to kill, but to capture. So he gives a brutal beatdown to Toji. Only after a while does Toji realize Gojo has no intention of killing him. That's when he finally stops fighting back. The two monsters face one another, each the pinnacle of a different world. Gojo doesn't lecture Toji about the system, he makes one thing clear. He's done playing by the rules, and he needs allies. More than that, he finds Toji fascinating. Without Toji, Gojo would never have reached this new height of power. Rather than killing him, Gojo is curious. He wants to see just how far he can push his strength. He tells Toji he'll let him walk away, so as long as he reveals who hired him. After some back and forth over payment, Toji finally agrees. He has one condition. His son was supposed to be sold to the Zenin clan, but he asks Gojo to take care of him instead. He realizes deep down that the best place for Megumi would be the strongest sorcerer of all time. Gojo agrees, and just like in the original timeline, takes Megumi from the Zenin clan and raises him by himself. The only difference is that Megumi gets to see his father on occasion. Some things, however, remain the same. Geto still begins to question his reality after witnessing ordinary humans applaud the death of a young girl, once again shattering his moral compass. At the same time, the mental strain of cursed spirit manipulation weighs heavily on him. He has always despised the tastes of curses, likening it to swallowing filth, but he endured it only because he believed his cause was just. Once that belief crumbles, resentment begins to take root. As Gojo takes on more solo missions, Geto is left isolated with his thoughts, eventually succumbing to them and falling to the dark side. Just like before, he begins killing civilians and is ultimately stopped by Gojo, who once again fails to destroy his body, allowing Kanjaku to steal the body once again. Toji doesn't become a sorcerer or even join Jujutsu High. Most importantly, he doesn't even answer the higher-ups. He becomes Gojo's invisible blade and joins him in his quiet revolution. Gojo is strong enough to kill anyone who opposes him, but he goes along with the system for now. The system blocks him from acting openly, and that's where Toji steps in. Dangerous people in the Jujutsu world vanish. Certain problems are handled before they ever have the chance to become major incidents. But the most important change is the Zenin clan. Toji's continued existence is a shame to them. More importantly, they've lost the one person who could use their strongest technique, the 10 Shadows. This causes the Zenin clan to fracture into 3 camps. The first camp is made up of the traditionalists. They view Toji as an unforgivable stain and are obsessed with reclaiming Megumi. They're also the ones who push for Toji to be assassinated. Then there are the practical ones. They know that Gojo is backing Toji and any retaliation would be suicidal. They want to preserve influence by compromising. Then finally, the smallest are the desperate ones. They start internal power grabs and even sabotage one another to look stronger. After one too many attempts on Toji's life, Gojo has enough. He pays Naobito Zenin a visit and makes one thing clear. They're only being tolerated because they're irrelevant now. This fractures the clan even more, but the attacks finally stop. Then of course there's Megumi. While he still grows up under Gojo's protection, Toji's still a part of his life. He's trained by 2 people who represent the peak of what humans can achieve. Toji's still rather distant. After all, he has no idea on how to be a father. But he spends time with Megumi and teaches him how to fight. That's his idea of bonding. Another person who he trains is Yuji. Whenever Gojo is away, Toji trains him in combat, particularly combat against other humans, while Nanami teaches him about curse energy and how to fight against curses. But he really steps into the trainer role when he hears about Maki and her heavenly restriction. Since he knows firsthand what happens to someone without curse energy in the Zenin clan, he pushes Gojo so that he can train Maki. Though Maki's full potential still isn't fully unleashed, while Mai is still alive, she reaches a higher level of power under Toji's guidance. She learns how to fight without relying on cursed tools, and under Toji's training she's able to fight against special grade threats. Though she's still shunned by the Zenin clan, who stubbornly only values cursed energy, she begins gaining recognition across the broader sorcery world. Then there is the biggest and most important thing. Kenjaku has no idea about Toji. He doesn't know about the heavenly restriction and the lack of cursed energy. As a result, he's unable to plan for it, leaving him unprepared for the new changes. Some of the story still goes as per canon. Yuji still swallows the finger and is condemned to death by the elders of the council. Gojo delays his death again. Everything else goes exactly as canon until Shibuya. That's where the major change happens. With Toji's presence, a lot of the cursed spirits that are going on a rampage are eliminated quickly. One major survivor is Nanami. Toji fights alongside him, taking down multiple curses together. This means that when they finally meet Mahito, Nanami isn't as injured as before, and he can actually fight back. Toji's presence makes the fight even more unfair. Sensing the disadvantage, Mahito immediately retreats. Gojo is still sealed, but this time there are other ways for him to be unsealed. Toji still has the inverted seal of heaven, and of course, there's Angel's skill and Jacob's ladder. Gojo's sealing still hurts, but the good guys keep fighting. Yuji's once again forced to ingest Sukuna's fingers, and he loses control. But this time he only fights against Jogo and defeats him with his firepower. Mahoraga does not appear because Toji and Nanami arrive on time to help in this fight. This means he never gets desperate enough to use his trump card. This means that Sukuna does not know about the full range of powers that Megumi has. However, he is still interested in Megumi because of the 10 Shadows technique. Moreover, at the end of the incident, Kenjaku still shows up, absorbs Mahito, and starts the culling games as usual. Once Gojo is sealed, the Jujutsu world immediately snaps back to its old habits. The elders don't hesitate. Just like before, they sentenced the principal to death, Yuji too. But this time there's a new addition to the kill list, Toji. He's been a thorn in their side for the longest time. And with Gojo out of the way, the elders jumped at the opportunity to remove him from the picture. In their eyes, nothing has changed, if anything. Gojo's absence proves they were right all along. Order must be enforced. Dangerous assets must be erased. Yuta being sent after Yuji again is almost routine at this point, but the difference is that everyone involved knows how this ends. Yuji dies, and then he doesn't. Yuta revives him, and in doing so makes it clear again that blind obedience to the elders isn't justice, it's convenience. The system survives on repeating itself even when the outcome is pointless. The Zenin clan massacre still happens. The rot in their system was too deep to avoid, but this time the aftermath is different. Maki doesn't just walk away as a survivor, she enters the culling games as a completed anomaly. No cursed energy, no restraint, no place in the system that tried to erase her. From the very start, she doesn't fit into the game's logic, and the barriers barely recognize her at all. And then there's Toji. Unlike Maki, he isn't even pretending to be part of the games. He doesn't register, he doesn't collect points, he doesn't follow the routes or colonies, he simply moves. Two people now exist who the culling games can't properly track, can't bind, and can't punish. And because of them, sorcerers start disappearing without a trace. No cursed energy residue, no point transfers, just silence. Kenjaku notices. From Kenjaku's perspective, the numbers stop making sense, players vanish, but the system doesn't acknowledge their deaths. The balance he's carefully maintaining begins to wobble. That's when he realizes something is actively hunting inside his game. Something that doesn't generate data, something he can't observe, and that forces his hand. Sukuna's release timetable gets pushed forward. Kenjaku has to rush his plans faster than before. After all, participants are disappearing much faster than he accounted for. And there's a huge gap in cursed energy. He needs more chaos. He needs a disaster big enough to drown out whatever is messing with his plans. So, Megumi is possessed. That still happens, but this time, Sukuna doesn't emerge into a vacuum. Nanami's there, older, calmer, fully aware that he's outmatched and still choosing to stand his ground. He fights around him, cutting down sorcerers, collapsing support, breaking momentum wherever he can. He turns the battlefield into something smaller, tighter, more controllable. And then there's Toji. Sukuna notices him. The absence of cursed energy is obvious, but the strength he displays even without it is astounding. Sukuna realizes there's something nearby that his domain doesn't fully acknowledge. something that keeps slipping past his senses. Toji's impact is subtle, but it's constant. Sukuna can't move freely, he can't relax, every opening feels like a trap. Toji's furious both with Sukuna and Kenjaku because he's lost both of his kids. Sukuna has taken over the body of Megumi and also killed Sumiki. When he comes across him, he fights against him using the Spear of Heaven to damage him. Gojo stops him. He explains that damage to Sukuna's physical body is only going to cause more damage to Megumi, and tells him to leave it to him and the rest of the sorcerers. Toji reluctantly stops fighting against Sukuna. That is when Gojo gives him and Nanami another target, Kenjaku. This time Toji is delighted. He gets to go after the person who caused his daughter's death as well as his son's possession. Together Toji and Nanami hunt down sorcerers, curse users, and finally Kenjaku himself piece by piece, until Sukuna is no longer the center of a grand plan, just a weapon that's been drawn too early. They kill Kenjaku and hurry back to the main fight to find out that Gojo has died. They rejoin the battle along with the rest of the MC gang. Then Sukuna finally falls, not to raw strength but to connection. Yuji's black flash throws him out of Megumi's body and he refuses mercy, choosing to die once again. What if instead of not dying, Toji's reborn with all his memories and abilities?